So, for example, now that you guys are experts in calculus, what they want us to do is evaluate the area under the curve of sine of x dx from 0 to pi, okay? And they want us to apply this property. And I kind of got excited and I got ahead of myself. If I take the function f of t dt, whoops, and I evaluate it from a to x, then that's really just the antiderivative of f of x minus the antiderivative of f of a. All right? That's it. So now we're going to try to do this by hand with just our brains and then see what we get on the calculator. What's the antiderivative of cosine? What's the antiderivative of sine?
Negative.
Negative cosine, right? So I've got this -1 cosine of x, and I just need to evaluate that from 0 to pi. Notice Mr. Adams changed the notation just a little bit. So I put that little straight line. That's kind of that's how Mr. Adams learned it. The book's a little different. So what does that mean? That means that the area under the curve of this thing, now I'm just going to toss this -1 to the front and say cosine of pi minus cosine of 0. Right? Now because you guys had an excellent pre-calculus teacher, we know that the unit circle is how we calculate our cosine and sine functions. So remember that it's cosine, any point on the unit circle is x comma y, which translates on the unit circle as cosine of theta comma sine of theta. So essentially, this is 0, this is pi over 2, over here is pi, and 3 pi over 2. Well, I've got pi and 0. So I'm going to look at these 2 points here, this point and this point. Now this point is, well, let's do the first one first. Cosine of pi falls on -1 comma 0. Well, we said that we're interested in cosine of pi, which means we're interested of this -1. In other words, cosine of pi is equal to -1. Cosine of 0 is going to be this point here, which is on 1 comma 0, and we're really interested in this, because that's what the cosine value is. So it's -1. So I can't forget all this other stuff. So the area under the curve is -1 times -1 minus 1, or -1 times -2, or 2. Okay? So I just did by hand the definite integral of sine of x from 0 to pi. Let's double check. I hope I'm right. I am, because I looked in the book. So let's see. So I'm going to graph this function, and I'm going to hit clear, and I'm going to say sine of x, and I'm going to go to zoom trig, and there's my function of sine of x. And remember, all that fancy notation means that we're going to try to find the area under the curve from 0 to pi. Now I could do this on my calculator by hitting second trace, option number 7, lower limit of 0, upper limit of pi, 2. I do math.